during the Cell Saga, we get to witness the spectacle that is the fight between Piccolo and Android 17. The choreography, the animation, and the general pacing of the fight were all top-notch. But enough about that. Today, I'm here to explore a situation where Piccolo manages to end Android 17 before Cell arrives at the island where their battle is taking place. As we all know, Piccolo and 17 are basically neck to neck in terms of power, but Piccolo slightly ages 17 in terms of raw brute strength, while 17 has infinite energy, thus he could operate at full power at all times. So how could Piccolo defeat 17? There's only one way. Piccolo needed to put his all into one attack strong enough to pierce 17's defenses and give him the victory, which also means he can't drag the fight out. If the fight dragged out for too long, Piccolo's power would drop far too much for any technique to get through Android 17's Android barrier. So at the start of the fight, Piccolo immediately asks 17 how confident he is. 17 remarks that looking at Piccolo's power back then when he fought and lost to Android 18, he wasn't at all afraid of the Namekian's power. 17 was confident to the point that he was actually slightly cocky. So Piccolo tells 17 that he will show 17 his greatest technique, but it required a while to charge up. Without hesitation, 17 gives Piccolo the time he needs, stating that he wouldn't attack Piccolo while Piccolo was doing so. Piccolo puts his fingers to his forehead as he focuses, starting to charge up his special beam cannon. 17 stands there waiting with a smirk on his face. Android 16 tries to persuade 17 to take the fight more seriously, that Piccolo was more than he seemed, but 17 waves off 16's concerns. Soon enough, the special beam cannon was ready. Piccolo holds the power in his fingertips as he yells, "Makanko Sampo." The beam flies towards 17 as 17 casually throws up his Android barrier. The yellow beam makes contact with the Android barrier, at first seemingly halted by the barrier. However, a crack suddenly appears. 17 widens his eyes as his barrier is overwhelmed by the sheer piercing force of the special beam cannon as it goes through his barrier and straight through 17's chest as well. 17 lands on the ground as he coughs out blood. Android 18 rushes to him. However, 17's life was no more. 17's lifeless eyes look back at Android 18 as an expression of sadness first appears on 18's face, before the sadness quickly morphs into anger. Android 18 fumes in rage and anger as she looks towards Piccolo. Piccolo cracks his neck, asking if 18 wanted to follow his brother's example and die under his hand as well. Piccolo knew that leaving 18 alive was a risk, but despite all of future Trunks' warnings, he didn't really think that 17 and 18 were bad people. In fact, 17 reminded him of himself back in the day. However, the threat of Cell was just far too pressing, so Piccolo knew that he had to eliminate one of the androids. 18 rushes forward, fully intending to get revenge for her brother, but a pair of strong arms hold her back. 16 tells 18 to step down. She wasn't a match for Piccolo. 18 tries to break out of 16's grasp, but to no avail. 16's grip was firm, and he didn't want any more of his android friends to lose their lives with such meaningless pursuits any longer. 16 thanks Piccolo for sparing them, even though he was technically stronger than Piccolo here, as he flies away with a struggling Android 18. Piccolo sits down a little drained as he looks down at 17's dead body. He sighs as he turns, intending to head back to Kame House, but he detects a sudden searching key right behind him. It was familiar, but sinister. It was Cell. Piccolo whips around as he notices that Cell's ki had dramatically increased since they last fought. In fact, Piccolo realized that him here was absolutely no match for Cell at this current time. Piccolo grimaces as Cell asks Piccolo where the androids were, before Cell sees a dead 17 on the ground. Cell screams in anger. Because of Piccolo, his goal of perfection will now forever be out of reach. Cell steps forward menacingly, asking Piccolo where Android 18 was. He would deliver Piccolo a swift death if Piccolo informed him about 18's whereabouts. Piccolo obviously remained silent, not saying a single word. Inwardly, Piccolo was panicking. Will this battle be where he falls? Seeing Piccolo's silence, Cell decides that he will just kill Piccolo, right here, as Cell flies forward. Piccolo flies forward as well, meeting Cell halfway as their fists clash. Immediately, Piccolo's arm is torn off from the impact, while Cell was completely fine. Cell beats Piccolo up relentlessly, not giving Piccolo a chance to breathe. The gap in power was immense, and Piccolo couldn't do anything about it. It didn't help that Cell was actually going all out here. Piccolo skids backwards and falls to the ground as Cell ends his combo, asking Piccolo one more time whether Piccolo was more willing now to shed some light on 18's location. However, Piccolo ignores Cell's questions once again, standing up shakily as he launches a barrage of ki blasts that Cell easily avoids. However, Piccolo keeps up this ki barrage, which still mostly misses the target. Cell laughs mockingly at Piccolo, asking whether Piccolo had finally lost it. However, Piccolo suddenly brings his hands together, gesturing at Cell. Cell looks around, realizing that there were hundreds of ki balls around him, all blocking his escape. The 100 ki balls were all flung towards Cell. This was Piccolo's Hell Zone grenade. Piccolo's Hell Zone grenade greatly damages Cell, causing even Cell to have multiple holes everywhere in his body. Cell screams in anger as he regenerates all his wounds. Piccolo, realizing that this was a fruitless endeavor, collapses to the ground, energy entirely spent. Cell refocuses his sights on Piccolo, stalking up to him, intending to end him right here and then. Meanwhile, Tien Shin Han, who was a spectator up to this point, decides to finally fly over to the island to aid Piccolo. Goku and Gohan were watching their fight from above at Kami's lookout, ready to instant transmission at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Android 16, who was flying away with Android 18, has a partially conflicted expression on his face. So, how will the rest of this confrontation with Cell go down? Will Piccolo succumb to Cell, or will someone save him? Well, these are questions we will answer in the next part on Dragon Ball Z.